For that, we had technical difficulties with the internet. And as I understand it now, we're going remote back to hotspot. We're using a hotspot with our phones, with our iPhones. But we had, I tell you what, you all really missed it because we had a very, very, very exciting conversation here with an urban person who relocated back to the rural area and rural people that have a very great appreciation and understanding of all this beauty that I see. I'm going to pretty much, I think I was wrapping mine up and talking about natural resource conservation services and property conservation easement. And I want to make one point regarding conservation easement, air property, or just conservation easement in general. Whenever you deal with business, and that's a business type of transaction that takes place, that will be the benefit of money that will come to you or come to the estates. Now, you know, along with income, you end up having tax liability, right? So you're going to get a 1099. So along with revenue, so always do a plan on the conservation easement, particularly if it's an estate. Do a plan for the tax liability that you would have to pay against the income. Or you need to make sure that you have a plan or look at this, if it comes in this particular fiscal year, what other expenses that you're going to have as relates to that farm itself or that estate. And if you clearly document those expenses and understand which expenses that may be tax deductible based on the revenue or the income from conservation easement. That's one. The second point I want to make, and I try to make this at all times whenever I'm talking to an individual from an air property perspective or conservation easement in general. The other thing to be very, very mindful of, that you still own the land. You still own the land. It's a permanent conservation easement, and you still have the responsibility for paying the taxes on your land as the landowner. So again, based on the trajectory of what your tax liability would be, or what the tax liability is on that land, and you already have a history of that, then you should set up a reserve account for future taxes. You set up a reserve account for future taxes and make sure, and that's for insurance purposes, okay? For insurance purposes, so everyone around the table and all heirs say, we're putting this into a reserve account situation for future taxes, because that is an expense we're going to have on an ongoing basis, and we want to make sure that that money is set aside. So before you start, so well, we're going to, this much has to go out for this, and this much is going to go to this individual for this. No, set that aside, reserve account for your taxes. Get with a CPA, an accounting person, to talk about and to look at what will be the projected tax liability on that revenue. Do the same thing on that, because that's going to happen. I don't care what. That's going to happen. Tax and tax. So you're going to have tax. You're going to have the real estate taxes ongoing, reserve account. You're going to have a tax liability, IRS, 1099. Your projector is what that is. And then I would encourage also any other type of expenses that you have that may be relative to that estate, if it's air property, that you look at what those expenses are from a futuristic perspective as well, and have that as a part of reserve as well. You know, it may be a reserve type of ongoing operational expense account. If there's, like on our estate, our trust situation, we have a family home we maintain, we keep that up, we keep it up as if somebody lived there all the time, and family members come back and stay there, you know, accordingly. So that's all I have, ladies and gentlemen. Again, that's Natural Resource Conservation Services, EQIP, conservation easement, conservation stewardship practices, and many other programs that they have, and we partner with them accordingly that enable us to do what we do, urban farm, opportunities for urban farm, and we provide that as our program service delivery on that side is to assist you to become an urban farmer, a beginning farmer, or a micro-urban farmer, and how to access those resources to make it a reality. Thank you very much. I'm going to end at that on Natural Resource Conservation Services. Next we have is USDA Rural Development. Are they on?
Dr. King, yes, I am.
Thank you. And this Mr. Woods?
This is actually Greg Riddell, USDA Rural Development.
Okay,
National
great.
Office.
Great. Oh, great. Fantastic. Okay, well, we're glad to have you. I'm going to turn it over to you at this point.
Now, how much time do I have, Dr. King?
Yeah, you have 20 minutes.
Okay, good deal. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes.
All right. Here we go. Work this thing out.
Would you give them a little background specifically where you're from and what your role is now with rural development out of Washington?
I absolutely am. I'm just taking my time, get it set up here. Definitely. Do you see a PowerPoint in front of you?
Yes.
You got it.
Awesome. Okay. Hey, hello everyone. My name is Greg Riddell. I'm with USDA Rural Development. I'm with the Innovation Center within USDA Rural Development. I serve as an economic development specialist. Normally Steve Mosier does these events, but he was not able to attend today. So he asked me to attend and I've graciously accepted. Number one, I like getting this information out. And number two, when I found out this was in Arkansas City, it was with Mayor Rick Hales. Like I said, I definitely jumped on it because I am with the national office and all that good stuff, but I am from Southeast Arkansas. Y'all might have heard a little old town called Gould, Arkansas, born and raised. So definitely when he told me about this, I was like, absolutely, yes. Like I said, look forward to participating in this particular workshop here. So thanks for setting this up, Dr. King. And so I'll move on. You may see me skipping some slides, because like I said, I just want to be able to get through all of them within the time allotted. As I stated, I'm with USDA Rural Development. Been with the agency since 2008. I'm going to give you a lot of information, but I think the main thing I want you to remember is that, you know, USDA Rural Development has programs for rural businesses, rural housing, and rural utilities. That's real important because we got over 40 programs, and I'm gonna go over some of them today, but it's you're just not gonna be able to absorb all that information. But those programs are grouped into 3 categories, and our agency is grouped into 3 sub-agencies. Programs for rural businesses, rural housing, and rural utilities. Your utilities gonna be broadband, water and wastewater, and electricity. So I'll go into each of these individually, but again, before you leave today, I might even throw a little quiz out there. I just want you to know that USDA Rural Development has programs for rural business, housing, rural utility. A lot of programs, but if you have a need for rural business, rural housing, and rural utilities, USDA Rural Development is the agency for you. Again, I'm with the Innovation Center. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I am on the partnership team, essentially trying to connect you with various resources, be it federal, be it USDA or non-USDA. So I'm constantly, Steve Mosier, myself, constantly trying to find new partners. Right now, we're trying to go the philanthropic route, getting connections there. So they have resources, along with our federal and state partners. So just constantly trying to just broaden our perspective when it comes to partners. So if you have a unique need and it's not exactly connecting the dots in regard to funding or technical assistance, just feel free to reach out to me and I'll try to assist you in that. So again, like I said, Innovation Center is here to help you. We work with our federal and state partners. The way we're set up is by regions. I used to be the Southern Region Coordinator. Steve Moses served that now you're Economic Development Specialist, but our Southern regions consist of 12 states in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Your state office is in Little Rock, but your area office that serves Southeast Arkansas is out of Monticello. But when I get through presenting, I'm going to drop that contact information for that area office in the chat. That office, all of the programs I'm going to touch base with you on, that's the office you're going to call to actually implement those programs. You know, they're the ones going to connect you to the program. Like I said, I've worked some of the programs myself, but at the end of the day, you'll have to call that Monticello office to, you know, actually, you know, apply for the various housing programs and utility programs and things like that. So again, Monticello office, I will get that information in the chat after I'm done here. So now we're going to talk about those rural development programs a little bit. We'll start with rural business first. Our business programs, again, this is going to be your rural businesses. Of course, we have our business and industry loan guarantee program. So if you have a business that you're seeking funding for, let me back up. You have to first be working with a bank that's interested in doing your project. And what we'll do, we'll go in and guarantee that loan. That's favorable to banks that's trying to work with you. You know, give them some assurance that, you know, they got government backing to move forward with you. So, you know, you're again, just looking at the bullet point list here, converting, enlarging, repairing, modernizing or developing businesses, purchasing and development land, you know, purchasing equipment, machinery, or refinancing when new jobs are being created. Our business and loan guarantee program, like I said, may be what your bank needs to move forward with your project. So just definitely keep that in mind for rural businesses. We got a whole list of energy programs. I'm going to focus on one because I just feel it's real important, and I'm not sure it's being utilized a whole lot, particularly in Southeast Arkansas. You know, I would say Arkansas, but it's the REAP program, the Rural Energy for America program. Now, what that program does, if you're doing energy efficiency for your rural business, and this also goes for ag producers as well, you know, this program will offset your costs in the form of a grant. So let's say if you are changing out your refrigeration, you know, like I said, so you can get a grant to offset that cost. And anytime you're able to offset your cost, that offset is money in your pocket. Lighting, windows, anything tied to energy efficiency. Maybe you're a farmer and you're changing out your motors for a more energy efficient motor. Anything, you know, you can use this program to offset your costs. I had someone explain this program to me like this, and I never thought about it like this, but it was true. The guy said, I went into this mom and pop store and I saw this old refrigerator, you know, it just not energy efficient at all. That owner of that store could, you know, got the REAP program, bought a new refrigerator, you know, energy efficient refrigerator, and got a grant to offset those costs. And you know, again, I never thought about these programs in regard to a mom and pop store, but guess what? Like I said, this program, if you're having those type of needs where you need to change those things out for more energy efficient equipment and things like that, this REAP program is probably a program you really need to look into. So definitely keep that one in mind. Again, that is the REAP program, the Rural Energy for America program. And it goes a little further, like I said, you know, regard to installing energy efficient lighting, upgrading refrigeration, improving insulation, ductwork, windows, and other building upgrades. You know, lowering heating costs and cooling costs with heating, ventilation, and air conditioning upgrades. So you'll get the offset of the cost through the grant for doing these things. And then of course you'll get to continue money savings just by simply having this energy efficiency installed. So, you know, installing solar panels, wind turbine, and solar's becoming real big. It's been a minute since I drove through Lake Village, but I saw some solar panel farms popping up. So that was good to see, and purchase these anaerobic digesters. So again, this list, some of these things, refrigeration, lighting, improved ductwork, that is something that, a lot of your businesses need. So, this is something really to think about. If you don't have a business, but you know someone that has a rural business, let them know about these programs. I'll drop the phone number to the area office in Monticello in the chat, and I'm going to also drop my phone number in there as well, so you can reach out to me, and I can make the connection. And one of the things I like about USEA, because we do have cooperative programs, and what that is, we have cooperative development specialists available on staff that can help you set up a cooperative and guide you in development. Let's give you an example. Let's say in East Arkansas, we always need our grocery stores. Some of our areas are in food desert. We have to travel a nice little way to get our groceries. And say your town wanted to develop a grocery store in the form of a cooperative. That's when the community come together and they own and run that cooperative. So it's the community. It's not some company from out of state that's setting up. There's nothing wrong with that. But if the community say, you know what, nobody's coming here to give us groceries, or provide this service, whatever the service is, it could be a clinic, it could be a grocery store, it could be whatever, and you come together. We have experts to help you set that up and can connect you with the program to help fund the setup and things like that. So it gives the community an opportunity to actually provide a service that it know it needs. So really fond of our cooperative programs, and it is available to you. So just keep that in mind. And it's such a, you could do so much with cooperative. But anyway, I'll move on. Passion, man. So that's rural business. Now we're finna get into rural housing. I heard Dr. King mention, housing needs, in Arkansas, period. But I know there's housing needs in Southeast Arkansas, because I still frequently go home, and the needs are great. So with that said, we do have a single-family housing program. There's no down payment. 100% affordable fixed rate financing, closing costs and repairs may be included, and no prepayment penalties. So we got a really good program there. Let me make sure I don't get in front of my slides. Okay, really good program there. We have our direct loan for housing. That's really good, but we also got a guaranteed loan housing program. I bought I done moved since then, but the house I stayed when I was in Northeast Arkansas, I bought it through our guaranteed loan program. And I was a veteran. I had access to the VA loan, but the guaranteed loan program was pretty good. So I went with it. So not as low as interest rate as the direct, because essentially you're gonna be working with the bank. But like I said, it was real good, real quick, real efficient. So, we got again, for housing, we got a direct loan and we got a guaranteed loan. And one other program I want to mention, our housing program, if you are 62 years and older and low income, I think the term is actually very low income, there is a loan and grant to help you rehab your existing home. So, again, one thing about this program, anytime you're dealing with federal programs, if you see that, for example, that stain in that roof and you got a leak, it's time to come to us. Don't wait till the roof go to falling out, because our programs move kind of slow. Anytime you think you have that need, go ahead and fill out that application. And one thing I will note on that grant for the rehab for housing for people 62 years and older, when they say very low income, they mean very low income. I thought I was gonna get my parents something set up, through that program. And like I said, well, of course, I think they're poor, but they went through the program. They didn't meet that very poor criteria. So, when they say very poor, they mean very poor. Your office in Monticello will actually have the incomes based on the number of people in your family. But again, it is a good program to have if you're 62 and older, very low income, and you have those rehab needs for your house. That comes in the form of a grant. The grant maxes out. It used to be $7,500, but I think they're they've been talking about bumping that up. But your area office in Monticello will be able to give you that information. So that's the housing program. So if you have housing needs, reach out to us. We also have funded some multifamily housing. It's my understanding we don't do the direct funding anymore, but nonetheless, we do service our existing multifamily housing. So you may be standing where you may have seen around with the USDA logo on them. So they are available. We service those, the staff service those very well, keeps them busy. You know, it's a lot going on with those. So those are available. And I believe they have guaranteed funding for those. But again, I'm thinking they just rehabbing the existing properties that we have. Oh, the single family housing, I kind of went into it a little bit. This is the repair loan and grant I talked to you about. Again, this is going to be for people 62 years and older. You can use that for access for persons with disabilities, roof and septic tanks repair, energy savings upgrades, and more. So, you know, a lot you can do with that. It's a loan and grant combination. You can apply for the grant if you meet the criteria. And like I said, again, it's just a very good program, but I would advise you, you know, if you know these repairs are coming down, you know, you see them come to our office, fill out the application now, because it is not, if you work with federal application before, it's not a speedy process. So if you see something going on, come to our office, fill out the application, get it going. We've got some good programs for you. I want to talk, and Dr. King, be sure to check me on time. I think I'm good, but just, you know, if I get too close, just holler at me. Next, I want to talk about our community facilities program. That is our program that's very broad. Anything, the way I like to describe it, anything that can benefit your community as a whole, this program is available. It is a loan and grant, but the grant, you know, maxes out at $50,000. A lot of people, a lot of communities use it for police cars, fire trucks, community centers, things like that. Of course, the grant's probably more so for equipment, you know, needs like that, but health clinics, schools, daycare, it is so broad. I probably better serve you telling you what it can't do. And what it can't do recreation. So it can't do your city parks. But think about it like this. That same equipment you have at a city park, the playground equipment, if we got that equipment and put it at a school, we could do that project because it's tied to education. So again, this program is very broad, you know, can pretty much hit all your community needs, museums, senior centers. I've done an assisted living center with the loan on this community facilities program. I used to work at, done a city bridge. Again, anything that benefits the city as a whole, that it serves as a central function to the city. This is a good program for communities to be aware of. Okay, so now we've talked about our rural businesses and our rural housing. I want to talk about our rural utilities. So again, as I said before, we got programs for rural business, rural housing, and rural utilities. We're going to talk about rural utilities a little bit. We do have an electric program. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. I haven't seen this. I personally haven't seen it used in Arkansas a lot, but I know it has been. But like I said, again, if you have those needs for electricity, we do have that program, so it is available to you. And I can connect you to the person that works that program if you have that need. Our telecommunications program, our broadband program. Like I said, again, broadband is just a basic need now. It used to be a luxury. Now it is absolutely necessary. We just found that out during this presentation. Like I said, without adequate broadband, you're not able to provide various services. You're not able to provide services for schools. You're not able to provide service for medical. You know, it goes on and on. So we do have the last couple of years, we received a lot of funding for broadband. Like I said, I think each year is around 650 million. I'm not sure what they're going to do next fiscal year, but let's just say broadband has been a huge focus. We've been getting a lot of money for that. So, you know, once those programs come out, or even if you have an interest, it's good to reach out to USDA Rural Development on that. And our water and environmental programs, that's going to be our water, wastewater programs. I'm pretty sure a lot of the rural community that's listening on now are aware of those programs, as we fund a lot of water and sewer systems in Arkansas, period. But you know, I know we've done it in Southeast Arkansas. I know we've done it in my hometown of Gould. So we service these lines a lot, and it seems like these systems are getting repaired at the same time, because like I said, some of these systems, I've worked with systems that's had lines that's 100 years old, systems 100 years old. So we got loan grant combinations to help with that. So again, you know, improve infrastructure, support public health, and promote economic development. We got your water, wastewater programs available for you. So, okay, so just, this is the kind of the basic contact information. Like I told you, I'm gonna, as soon as I get through talking, I'm gonna put the phone number for the Monticello area office into the chat box. And so you can have that information. And I'm also gonna put my personal cell number. It's gonna be a 202 area code number, my number, but it's my iPhone, you know, so it's on me. So I'll be available to you. Like I said, I work for the national office, but I'm living in Central Arkansas right now. And so, so just definitely feel free to reach out to me, you know, if you got any questions about these programs. So Dr. King, at that right now, I'm gonna stop and entertain any questions that you may have. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen once I figure how to do that.
Mr. Dell, this is Albert Jones. We'd like to thank you so much. But would you stay on? We're going to hold the question and answer session to the end, if that's all possible. And Dr. King,
That is all right. That is all right with me. So there we go.
Yes, for time purposes. Thank you so much for joining us. Here's Dr.
Okay. It's good to see you, by the way. Take care.
All right, thank you very much. That's some very, 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 very beneficial information for this area. Chief, I hope this is what you expected, the type of information you wanted to hear. And then look at you. I say the greater community of Arkansas City, you got a homeboy giving you the information on top of that. Everything that was talked about from a rural development perspective, it can do so much. Totally build a community, new business startup, housing. Chief said want to talk about housing, see what that is now, housing needs in the area, cooperatives, cooperative development, you know, and on down the line. And we'll talk more in detail. So please write your questions down. And those who have questions that's virtual, if you would put them in the chat box, all right, Mike? If you would put them in the chat box or any question you have, and we'll make sure that those are responded to as well. Next, we have on program, on the agenda, we have Miss Eloise Spread. I hope I'll be getting your name right, Eloise, with the USDA Policy Center. And again, now the information that she's going to bring to you, it might sort of shock you in one way. But on the other hand, I'm hopeful that as she presents her information, you will see and understand why and how these voids exist out here, why we are here, and why we need to be here, and how we are trying to do more from the outreach perspective to deal with some of the disparities that exist, you know, in your local community on access and resources. So I'm going to now turn it over to the USDA National Policy Center. Eloise, are you on?
I am on, yes, so.
Okay, all right, it's on you.
Okay, let's see. Okay, do you see the screen? Is my PowerPoint up?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So one correction. So I am not with USDA, at least anymore. So I want to say that I'm retired from USDA, but the Policy Center is actually located at Alcorn State University. So, and in fact, the Policy Center, well, let me take a step back then. For those that don't know me, I am the Executive Director of the Socially Disadvantaged Farmers and Ranchers Policy Research Center, located at Alcorn State University. I retired from USDA, Natural Resources Conservation Service, and I was asked to come to Lorman, Mississippi to stand up the Policy Center. So I have spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C., but I was raised on a farm, if you will. I spent my summers on my grandparents' farm down in North Carolina. So I kind of bring both perspectives to the table. So but the Policy Center was authorized in the 2014 Farm Bill. And the only stipulation in the Farm Bill was that it had to be located at an 1890 university. So Alcorn State University, who is the oldest, which is the oldest 1890 university, houses the Policy Center. And although it's located at Alcorn State, it is a national center with a strategic focus in the 18 states with 1890 land-grant universities. It is staffed by 4 full-time employees. So in addition to myself, there is a policy analyst, there is a research analyst, and a program assistant. The majority of the work at the Policy Center gets done through contracts and subawards. So why was it created? To be a voice for socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers, and to ensure that when we brought forth recommendations to Congress, those recommendations were data-driven information and not just anecdotal stories. And so, you know, active research is one of the primary focuses of the Policy Center. It is housed in the Office of the President, and I have a dotted line to the Dean of Ag. And our mission at the Policy Center is to conduct research, analyze policy, and make recommendations seeking to achieve equitable, and so I want to emphasize that, equitable and economic integration of USDA programs and policies for socially disadvantaged farmers, ranchers, communities, and rural landowners. And our vision is actually for the Policy Center to be the premier authority for information on the history, current conditions, trends, and future projections of socially disadvantaged farmers, ranchers, and communities. So we have 4 areas of focus: stakeholder engagement, active research, policy development, and strategic outreach. So the first area then is active research, and we have 6 research priorities. The impact of current agriculture policy on socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers, the participation of socially disadvantaged farmers in USDA programs. So either those things that support or hinder participation. Land loss among primarily African American farmers. Calvin talked about heirs property, and it is most prevalent among, Black farmers. Second, Native American, farmers. Access to and use of technology and other resources. And then we added youth programs in the pipeline as the average age of the farmer, continues to rise. If we don't look at youth programs and increasing that pipeline, farmers will be aged out of the profession. So community and urban agriculture is the 6th area of priority. So we currently have 7 active research studies, and 4 of the 7 relates to heirs property. And one of the things, that I get asked the most often from congressional members is, what is the magnitude of heirs property? I think that we have clearly convinced them that heirs property is an issue, but they want to understand the magnitude. And so that is, we have a number of research studies looking at the magnitude. Tuskegee University is looking at the uniform classification, if you will, of heirs property, because what we found is from county to county, state to state, there are different classifications of heirs property. And if you don't have all of the nomenclature, you won't necessarily have a true picture of the amount of heirs property that is out there. The Federation of Southern Cooperatives is looking at the implementation, USDA's implementation of heirs property from those requirements in the 2018 Farm Bill. Auburn University is looking at quantifying heirs property across the Deep South in 6 states. And then Lycan is examining the efficacy of the Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Act. And basically they want to know, has the Uniform Partition of Heirs Property made a difference? So they're comparing 2 states that have implemented in the Uniform Partition of Heirs Property, which is Georgia and Alabama, against a state, Kentucky, that has not yet implemented the heirs property. In addition to those 4 studies, the National Black Growers Council is looking at the differences in crop acreage bases between Black and white farms. Tougaloo College is looking at the implementation of a leadership development program in the Mississippi Delta. It is initially a pilot there, and this is a program for rural leaders then to ensure that they have the tools then for improving infrastructure in the rural towns, if you will. And then the 7th is participation by minority farmers in medical marijuana in Mississippi. And so we have started the execution of the 2023 Farm Bill planning process. And so we've held a number of meetings then to collect data. And that's one of the things that I want to emphasize when I get to some of the things that I'm going to highlight that Calvin mentioned. So these come from farmers and ranchers that we have collected data from. So they're not our own individual, if you will, perspectives there. And then, what we plan to do with the information is to develop recommendations and continue to engage the meeting participants, then to prioritize those recommendations, present them to the Congressional Black Caucus to get their support, and then ultimately send them to the House Agricultural Committee for insertion into the 2023 Farm Bill. So one of the things that I like to do is give people context. And so I'm sure you have been hearing a lot about justice for Black farmers. So why justice for Black farmers? Because from 1868 to 1934, the federal government gave away 246 million acres of farmland and 160-acre land grants to over 1.5 million white families. And so these federal land grants became the source of wealth creations for millions of white Americans as they improved the land, engaged in agricultural production, and leveraged the asset to start businesses and make investments. And then over the last 100 years, they have also utilized USDA programs, loans, subsidy programs, and grants to expand their operations and to weather during difficult times. During this same period, Black farmers were often denied assistance through a long history of racist discrimination by USDA. And when they tried to speak out, USDA systematically ignored or dismissed their claims. So now this systemic racism coupled with market discrimination forced the disposition of millions of acres of Black farmland and decimated the population of Black farmers in America. So in 1920, there were nearly 1 million Black farmers in the United States. Now, a century later, there are fewer than 50,000 Black farmers in the US. And the Black-owned farms that remain tend to be smaller on the average than other farms, and Black farmers make a fraction of what white farmers make in farm income. According to Secretary Vilsack, under the previous administration, the top 10% of producers received 60% of the COVID relief funds. The lower 10% received less than 1%. So the majority of Black farmers are in that lower 10%. So they receive less than 0.5% of the COVID relief funds then that were distributed during the previous administration. Okay, so how do we get to, again, justice for Black farmers? So through the efforts of 32 Black groups working with 4 candidates that were running for president at the time, the policy was developed. And those 4 candidates were Senators Warren, Senator Sanders, Vice President Biden, and Michael Bloomberg. Now, Senator Warren developed the most comprehensive policy between the 4. And she and her staff drafted the Justice for Black Farmers Act. Senator Booker subsequently took the lead for the Justice for Black Farmers Act in late 2020. And then Senator Reverend Warnock drafted the American Relief for Farmers of Color Act in February of 2021. And there's several components, and primarily the debt relief was originally included in the Justice for Black Farmers, and it was transferred to the American Relief for Farmers of Color Act. So 3 primary policies that I want to quickly touch on in the interest of time. That one is the American Relief for Farmers of Color. The second is the Executive Order on Advancing Racial Equity and Support, and then the Justice for Black Farmers Act of 2021. So the American Relief for Farmers of Color Act was signed by President Biden on March 10th of 2021. The act calls for funding at $5 billion. $4 billion of that is for debt relief for people of color, and $1 billion is support activities. Now, of that $1 billion, 5% was to go to land access and heirs property, 5% to legal centers on agricultural legal issues, 5% for research, education, and extension at minority serving institutions. 5% was to go to outreach, financial training, and mediation. And then 0.5% was to go to the Racial Equity Commission to address systemic racism. So 79.5% of that $1 billion was not specified. Okay, so again, to give you context, so there's 17,000 borrowers who qualify for Section 1005, which is the $4 billion of debt relief. Of those 17,000, 47% are Native Indian or Alaskan Native, 26% are Hispanic, 18% are Black, 8% Asian American, and 1% Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander. And so on the American Relief Act, the Policy Center continues to outreach with USDA. So we're working with Dr. Dwayne Goldman, the Senior Advisor to Racial Equity, and Zach Duchesne, the current FSA Administrator. We hosted several listening sessions where the two of them were participants. And we also at the Policy Center drafted recommendations for Section 1006 and how that 79.65% should be utilized. The second piece of legislation is the executive order on advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities. Now, there are three sections that are particularly relevant from our perspective. Section 5 calls for all federal agencies to conduct an equity assessment within 200 days to assess their policy, programs, and procedures that have potential negative impact on people of color. And so they were asked to look at barriers in enrollment or access to programs, barriers to procurement and contracting, and any additional resources needed for advancing civil rights. Section 7 calls then for these agencies to take those barriers that are identified and develop a plan to address them within 1 year from the signing of the executive order. And then 9 deals with establishing an equitable data working group then to ensure that the data is available by race, ethnicity, gender, disability, income, veteran status, and other criteria for identifying. Now, so what we did at the Policy Center, since the clock was ticking and we knew that it was only 200 days, and that 200 days is up in actually in a couple days from now. So we actually assembled a team. That team consisted of retired USDA employees. And so they average 30 plus years of experience, either with NRCS, FSA, or rural development. We had Policy Center staff, we had attorneys and law school students then, and farmers that either currently farming or participating in USDA programs. So this team reviewed the results from the research studies that were conducted under the umbrella of the Policy Center. They contacted, or through our listening sessions that we held, received information from over 500 farmers, evaluated published rules, regulations, procedures. They reviewed previous civil rights assessments, so what's known as the CRAC, or the Civil Rights Action Report, the Jackson-Lewis study, the Miller Report, various GAO reports. And then I facilitated a focus group consisting of our advisory board members. And so taking this information, the Policy Center responded to 2 requests for information. One of them from Office of Management and Budget, which was due July 6th, and one was from USDA's request, which was due July 15th. And both were asked either for the methods for advancing equity and supporting underserved communities, or barriers to racial equity. So again, just to highlight a couple, in the interest of time. So one of the things then that came out loud and clear, in these discussions was FSA county committees. And there are a number that believe that they have outlived their usefulness. That if you study the years and all of the reports of discrimination, the county committees were often the source of discrimination. And there's an underlying belief that if it could have been fixed, they would have been fixed by now. And given that the case, so they believe then that the county committee should be eliminated and FSA should have a structure then similar to NRCS then for providing outreach. So we looked at another barrier was organizational changes at USDA made during the last 4 years. One was the FPAC Business Center realignment. And, you know, from our perspective, FSA had the worst track record for civil rights. And most of the leadership in this new realigned organization was FSA senior executive service members. So NRCS at least had a record of working successfully with socially disadvantaged farmers. And the whole realignment is kind of production versus conservation. So if you combine FSA and NRCS, you are combining a production-oriented organization with a conservation-oriented organization. And the biggest concern really is with the business center and the delays in hiring, contracts, and agreement processing has had the greatest impact on socially disadvantaged farmers. The other organization changes was NIFA and ERA relocations to Kansas City. So they are currently below 75% of their capacity. So the loss of institutional knowledge will take years then to recover from. So one of the things in the listing of barriers to request a review or evaluation of the organizational changes that have occurred in the last 4 years. Another barrier that we identified was the complaint processing process administered by the Office of Civil Rights, and specifically the relationship between the Office of General Counsel and the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights. Under transparency and accountability, data requirements then were listed or required in the 2002, 8, 14, and 18 farm bills. To date, USDA has not then fully implemented those requirements. So that lack of data was one of the reasons for the delay in debt relief. But even if they had had the information and had implemented 1005, only 8% of Blacks will receive debt relief. 3,100 of the little bit less than 50,000 will receive debt relief. So from our perspective, in order to receive debt relief, you have to have received loans from FSA in the first place. So again, you know, the challenges in assessing credit and other resources was one of the barriers that we highlight in our report. The other concern was the definition of socially disadvantaged farmer and ranchers. The 1990 definition, which was along racial lines, if you will, subsequent definitions included veterans and white females. And so what we found is when you added these additional categories, the group that received the least amount of benefits or the most impacted by this was Black farmers. Because if you looked at then the services that were provided to socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers from 2014 to 2017, overall it showed an improvement. When you look beyond then the total numbers and looked at each category separately, the group that received the most benefits was white females. The group that received the least was Black farmers. And so that was from a Jackson State University study that was done, you know, under the umbrella of the Policy Center. So these are just highlights of the barriers that we identified then. And the full report we did provide through the Federal Register to USDA. And so the only thing I want to highlight once again, and so the third piece of legislation was the Justice for Black Farmers Act, which has not been passed yet. But I share that because there were a number of individuals that were up in arms because one of the provisions in there was 160-acre land grants. And that's one of the reasons I shared with you the history and background there, because it wasn't a problem when there were 160-acre grants that were provided to white farmers. Now that to ensure or provide for some semblance of equity, there is a request for Black farmers to be provided that there is a problem. Okay, so there's my contact information, but you can always go on Alcorn's website under the Policy Center if you don't have it. Okay, Calvin, I'm gonna stop there then, because I know, you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Dolores, thank you very, very much. How many of you in the audience had heard of the National Policy Center before? What I'm thinking. Yeah, and that's why we like to always have them on the agenda. You see the type of information the Policy Center and the type of work they're doing. You know, one, the education process, and we're going to move on with the agenda and come back to questions, is that it is imperative from both an education perspective, information-wise, that both those who are underserved understand how these disparities exist, one. Also, it is those that there are some in certain cases, they say, well, maybe this should not exist, or maybe we shouldn't be doing it differently. But when you get the right information, you understand why it should be done differently, why there should be different policies, and what the ultimate overall impact has been. You saw the issue on air property, I gave reference to air property. That's been worked on, the impact of it. 1910, African Americans owned 15 million acres of land. Today they own less than 4 million on some statistical data. Some say roughly 2 million. In addition to that, roughly 30% of that land loss, from 15 million acres to some 4 million acres or less, 30% of that land loss can be attributed to air property. 30%, that's a lot. That is a lot. To air property, the way laws existed, and a number of other factors that was involved in that. I just want to make that point, and we're going to come back to it. Let's go ahead with the agenda. Next we have on the agenda is USDA Farm Service Agency. Are you on?
Yes, sir, Dr. King, Theo Eldridge.
Okay, we have with us Mr. Theodore Eldridge with Farm Service Agency. I just want to give a shout out. He happens to be from Eastern Arkansas, where I live too. You know, I just thought I'd say that. Mr. Eldridge, are you on now?
Thank you, sir. And bear with me, this is my first time with the Zoom meeting, so I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, the audience can see it.
We can't see.
No, okay, we can't see the presentation.
See him.
We can see you though.
Okay, well, let me try something else. There we go. I think I see it now.
Let him know it's coming up, I believe. Yeah, it's up.
It's up, Michelle. All
Thank you,
right.
sir. I'll make this as brief as I need to. You just let me know. The Farm Service Agency is a part of the USDA Department of Agriculture and provides programs and loans to help farmers, ranchers, and agriculture partner organizations provide food, fuel, and fiber to millions of people worldwide. And so let me back up. I am Theo Eldridge, and I'm in Phillips County, the city of Helena, up the river a little ways. Where you are in Arkansas City is Desha County, and your service center is in McGee, and your county director is David Goodson. So if you have any questions or need to contact that office, I have posted it in the chat room. FSA has two, we call them two sides, but we have a program side and we have a loan side, and I'll go over the difference and the services we offer on both sides. If you're new to USDA, if you're a new landowner, a new farmer, want to become a farmer, you may want to participate in NRCS programs, EI Hoop House, crop insurance and whatnot. FSA is the first place that you would need to go to get you entered into the system as a producer, farmer, and the information that we would need to do that or to get you started in anything, either your social security number and or your TIN or EIN number, the entity documentation, a deed to show where the land is, a lease to show that you have control of that land, and any information, if we don't already have it, about the owner or the operators of the land that you want to control. Here are a few documents that are pretty well needed to be updated. The gross income, that's a yearly form once you're active in programs with USDA. 80-1026, we do conservation, we'll call it, it ensures a conservation plan is in place before land with highly erodible soils are farmed. In other words, we go out and check it and make sure there are no erosion concerns before any project that we start. CC 901 is another form. The members of the entity. In other words, we take, we need to know who is a part of your operation, all of the members, where you farm, how much acreage you farm, what are you farming. So we gather that information on a yearly basis. We have a series of programs, and in the last administration, we've had extra programs. I can go into detail if needed, so I'm going to skip it, but we have programs that if you are a farmer only, or if you are a rancher, or if you farm honeybees or fish farmers, tree farmers, we have a program to fit you. And when we say programs, the programs are created by Congress. USDA makes policy to those programs. And then we at USDA check the eligibility of each farmer or each potential participant to make sure everything is in compliance. And then we can award those benefits to you. Dr. King has mentioned the CFAP program, the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program. So I won't mention that again, but the sign up is still going on. We have a new program for called the Forest Management Incentive Program. However, you would currently need to be enrolled in CRP or have an active contract going on now to be eligible for that program. The Conservation Reserve Program, or CRP, basically, if you have land that would, in other words, to be more productive or more profitable for you to take it out of active farming production, just say low-lying land that floods all the time or most of the year, that land may be eligible for the CRP program, and the rates could be the payment on that program can be $60 to $80 to $90 per acre, depending on the soil and the type of practice that you want to put on the CRP program. Our second side, also, we do direct operating loans. That's the farm loan side. Micro loans, direct ownership loans, a host of loans, equipment loans, farm ownership loans. But give you an example of a direct loan program, the percentage or the interest rate, I should say, is 1.75 right now for direct operating loans. That'll give you an idea of compared to your local bank. And then if you want to own land, you want to buy a farm, right now our rate is at 1.5% interest. And we can do terms as long as 40 years on purchasing farms. Some news or some updates due to COVID, USDA has temporarily suspended past due debt collections and foreclosures for any distressed borrower under the farm storage, farm loan, facility loan, or direct farm loan programs. So there shouldn't be any active collections going on any producer at this time until we get past the coronavirus or we get updates from Congress to proceed. There are other deadlines that have been extended also during this time for current borrowers. So hopefully there's no activity in any of those areas. If there are, please contact Dr. King and his staff there, and they could get the help or get the attention to the right place to be notified of that. Ms. Elores mentioned the American Rescue Plan. So I won't go into that. And Dr. King talked about it, I think, just a little bit. And they probably have much more information than we have. We are on hold right now as far as actively dispersing funds, but we are, if you are an active farmer with debt and you have qualified for the American Rescue Plan, you should have got a letter by now notifying you of that. If not, again, Dr. King and his staff can assist you in that. There are numerous ways to contact any FSA office or be in contact yourself with just through farmers.gov with different programs that are available now, new programs, current programs. We have a text messaging option. You can type AR for Arkansas plus whatever county you live in. If it's AR July, and text that to FSA now or 372-669. And once or twice per month, you will get a update or an email about current events at USDA Farm Service Agency. There is an Ask USDA or ask.usda.gov questions you may have, and that's a 24/7 service that you can call nationwide, and hopefully they can get your answers if you're unable to contact anyone else. Again, I've posted your local information for Desha County, the McGee office, David Goodson in the chat. And I thank you again, Dr. King, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Alger. Appreciate it. All of our participants on the agenda, and we'll now take any questions that you may have. Mr. Jones.
I would just like to show the people online the audience out here. And if you got questions, one of the things as far as the people who are online, this is the microphone up here. If you got questions, if you for Dr. King or anybody else who's online.
Now, I'm sure Albert didn't put that camera
I believe it or not, I did. I put it right in the right spot. Yeah.
All right, all my audience, can you, is it up right? All right, I know y'all been giving us a hard time. People, I've really been enjoying this, one, being out in the community, being here in Arkansas City in particular, but anyone either online or in the audience, if you have any questions, we'll take them at this point. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Give me your name.
My name is Sandra Horn.
Sandra Horn.
Miss Horn, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have two questions. Okay, the first one is, okay, say you just want some repairs done on your house. Okay, they didn't mention much about that, but they said it was like a $7,500 limit or something like that. Okay, the next question is, how do you go about getting information about
Right.
that? And the third one, what if you need a whole new house?
What do they mean by hole in your house?
Whole new house.
A whole new house. Gotcha.
You-
Okay, we got two. This question is for rural development. And the question was, one, is that the reference to the $7,500, was that a limit? And the other question was, how do you go about getting a whole new house, just a total new house? Rural development.
Very good question. And I put the contact name and number in the chat for the Rural Development Office in Monticello. I never worked a housing program. So like I said, it's best to follow up with them. I've been out of the state, Arkansas since 2015. So it's best to contact that Rural Development of Monticello office. I'm just gonna read out the number here, 870. Wait till they get the pen. Again, it's 870-367-8400, and that's extension 4. Again, that's 870-367-8400, extension 4. So yeah, you got to contact that local office, and they'll give you the details on that. Like I said, because I know it used to be 7,500. I think it still is, but I've been hearing talk that it was going to bump it up, but it's best to contact the office.
It is.
The next question in regard to a new house, same thing. You got to contact that office to get that application, and they'll get that application process started with you. Pretty much on all these programs, if you want to get started with us, you have to go to that Monticello office. If you're in Southeast Arkansas, like I said, of course, when you're in other areas, like for example, Mr. Theodore Edwards, he's in Helena, he'd have to go to Fort City. But if you're in Southeast Arkansas, close to Arkansas City, surrounding areas, you're gonna go to that Monticello office, get the application, and they can get you started. And housing and everything.
Let me say this regarding the information that he just provided on the housing. The $7,500 is the grant side of the program that he gave reference to.
Yeah.
He gave reference to another side of the program. This is just for repair. Now, so that was only the limit for the grant. The other side of the program is a loan side, which is up to $20,000. And that $20,000 loan side, this is renovation and repair, $20,000 loan side is at a 1% interest rate. 1% interest rate, you have a minimum payment, that you make. If $27,500 would do the work that needed to be done on the house. And in certain cases, people can partner back with, I mentioned partnering with other support agencies and those who are in your local community, such as the Community Action Agency. Community Action Agency weatherization program. Now, there are certain activities that they will not do unless, say, if you have a leaking roof and that needs to be repaired before they do some of those certain types of weatherization or certain activities, then you need to fix the roof first. So, you would need to deal with the renovation program through rural development, maybe the $20,000 loan side to do the roof. And there may be other health situations involved. It could be heating and air, it could be wiring, electrical, and things of that nature that could be a hazard situation for you. Community Action Agency, rural development, another housing program that they have, and this can be done through the city. So when you say put all the partners at the table and how can we best possibly have the maximum impact on the local community based on what the needs are. The other is what they call a home program. A home program. Your state representative here is very supportive and want to address the housing needs. So does the mayor in this city. That is a number one positive for you. The home program, you can do up to $25,000 for renovation work. So if you take the $25,000 and say the city can make that application, say if we have 10 houses that we want to try to partner and get this done with, working both with rural development, Arkansas Development Finance Authority, and with the home program, make the application there for these individuals, along with the loan application. And when that puts in place then where you would have a total of $45,000 for renovation repair. So getting your assessment from individuals or carpenter contract, because costs have seriously gone up on building materials now. It has really gone up tremendously. But that's $45,000. $45,000, 1% interest rate on the loan, $25,000 possibly grant. I would urge you, state representative, he's very supportive. He wants to see some things happen here. The mayor said the same thing. He wants to get this done. That's an application process with the state Development Finance Authority, Arkansas Development Finance Authority for the grant program, $25,000, rural development interview, and we'll work with you in facilitating and dealing with this whole process, in housing. The $7,500 grant side with rural development, and that's working with your local office here based on the individual that qualifies, say, under the home program, basically the same income guidelines, okay? But rural development agrees that we want to partner on this. We're going to do the $20,000 loan. We're going to do the $7,500 as grant as priority on these. Now, what you would end up having a total of some $52,000 in renovation. So bringing the resources to the table, dealing with it from a partnership perspective and how these plans are put together. And that's the way we work, and want to do even more in this manner with the state representative, with the elected official, with the mayor, again, and looking at the number of houses it is. The mayor know your community best. The mayor knows it. Your state legislator knows it and understands it. That was our pre-meeting as we got started and getting to the point as to where we are now. That's one example. Resources, partnering, working it accordingly. And while we can be here and be in Fargo, this setup here, working with the city, as you see, you can see them, you'll be able to see us, and working with City Hall, and we're going to partner back with the chief of police here, administrative people here in Star City area, so we can work through and deal with a
Arkansas.
Application. Arkansas, what did I say? Oh, I'm sorry. I was sorry. We have to go to Star City too. That we got to get out of Star City. Arkansas City. So it will be like us being here. We set up the Zoom. We set the Zoom up. We connected back to the city, working back their computer and having. Well, now you all really got to work on the internet, your Wi-Fi, Chief. And I hope rural development see what's going on here. We're using hotspots now to make this happen with our phones. But rural development, you still on?
Yes.
I have a question. Are you all still recognizing prosperity communities?
I'm not familiar with the term, Dr. King, prosperity communities. Was that some type of initiative some time ago?
Yes, that was an initiative under the previous administration. So I don't know if that had totally gone out of existence now, but we started a process working with that back at where you look at what all the needs are in the area and what the community want, broadband being one, housing being another, conservation program services and opportunities on the urban farm. So what we do is put together just sort of a plan based on all of these areas in the local community and then certify them accordingly and work with the local community accordingly. But we know housing is one, broadband is another, business development expansion is another area, and of course, conservation program services. So, but we're gonna work with you on the housing portion of it as well as the business development portion of it as we sort of move forward. Yeah, and we'll have a direct link. All we have to do is communicate with the chief, with the city, schedule either a client meeting. You know, USDA staff is not getting out a lot now, and we, because of what's going on with COVID-19, so we've tried to create a process where you can be here, and even if we're there, it'll be like us being right here in Star City with you.
Arkansas City?
I mean,
Arkansas City.
Arkansas
Don't
City.
get in trouble.
I got right to the end and got in trouble. Arkansas City.
There are questions from the chat box.
Oh, okay, I'm saying.
First off, does anyone else in the room have any questions? Do you need anything else broken down to your understanding? Okay, just wanted to make sure first. We have Terry Vincent, who is online on Zoom. He's kind of a three-part question, and it's about air property. He's asking how to really unlock air property when all members are not on the same page. What can I do to protect and use my share of this property? And can I receive a farm number without other members or heirs being on board or knowing?
That's you, yeah, that's you.
We don't have our attorney on, but you got it.
Yeah. We probably should have brought the lawyer with us on this. One, it is in the interest of all heirs that you, and we can put that in place for you, that you have an agreement with the heirs and someone to act in the interest of the estate, of the heir property. That's in the best interest. That's one. Two, if you're going to get a farm number, and getting a farm number, and Mr. Eldridge, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, but in order to get a farm number, you must show that you have control of that property or the authority to use it as the individual, although you're an heir. So it may be a statement of agreement from all the heirs that you have the authority, administrative authority, and I'll use myself as an example. You know, I have by way of the courts, you know, I have the administrative authority to act in the interest of our family trust, you know, with a job description, but with the responsibility. But I have the administrative authority to act on behalf of our estate and the trust. Okay, so that's based on all the heirs that's involved with with my parents' estate. So, and I hope this answers your question. To get a farm number, yes, you can get a farm number. You have to show that you have the control of the land and the administrative authority to utilize the land with it being heir property.
Yes, sir. I have no rebuttal on that, Dr. King. I would say where I've seen that may be an issue is new land being broken out. Maybe it's a timber farm or 80 acres of woods where you wanted to put a hoop house, because there are very few farms this day and time that don't already have farm numbers. So I would be interested just to know what kind of land is it already at the present moment if it doesn't have a farm number.
Okay, so that was from Mr. Terry Vincent, and if you could provide your information or you guys could exchange it in the chat room, that way you can address him directly and answer his questions.
Mr. Chairman, let me ask one question in reference to that. If we do have this in a lot of cases, and I know Mr. Lois gave reference to these different categories of our property, and in reference to where some other assistance may be offered as well under the present, not the Justice for Black Farmers Act, but the Affirmative Color Act, that possibly there's some assistance that may be offered through USDA in the future. But I will say that in that particular case, the individual who had the question, if you would call our office at 870-734-3005, we will work through that process with you. And we do have a list of attorneys that can deal with the more technical aspect of our property and the best possible resolution, to issues such as what you're dealing with.
We have one more question from Ms. Benita Davis. And she is asking if we have an attorney that we can provide to her. She's currently in the middle of a battle, a 30-year battle, where the last relative had no descendants left. So she's asking for an attorney to give her some kind of advice. And we do have an in-house attorney if you wanted to share the information.
Calvin, Calvin.
Yes.
This is Loris.
Yes.
So one of the things that and I apologize if it's already been announced, but Vilsack announced, USDA announced today that $67 million was going to be available to resolve heirs property issues, if you will. And so this morning I attended a meeting with the administrator, Dusenay, that announced the relending program. And so they're going to be, FSA is going to be hosting a series of webinars. And so there'll be additional information that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks related to it. I just want to make sure that everyone was aware of that.
Well, thank you very much. I wasn't aware, and I don't think the ones in our audience was aware of it either. That's a big issue, people. We understand it's a very big issue. We have other communities we are going to, and I'm gonna make sure I say Arkansas City this time, that we're going to be going to as well, that have the same issue, all over. But if you call our office, I don't want to deal with a specific attorney right now. Normally, the way that we work, based on your location where you are, we will give you the name of an attorney, some attorneys that you may want to consider getting with to work through that issue that you may be dealing with on our property. So it's more than one attorney. And we can't just say, okay, well, yeah, here's one, here's them. When I get back to the office, I'm gonna be in trouble with the others, with the rest of them. So we don't normally do it that way, but if you call the office on our property,
Can you provide
Ms. Crockett.
Can you provide the office number again? Someone just asked for the.
Oh, okay. Our office number is area code 870-734-3005. Now I'm going, and Mr. Jones' work cell number. So if he's not at the office, I'm going to make sure you all find him. Here's what's your cell number? Work number?
It's a new number. I'm gonna get you the number, but as I'm looking for my number, did everyone get signed in to where we have your contact information? Did everyone get signed in? Okay.
Yeah, hopefully everyone signed the sign-in sheet.
Okay, my cell number is 870-752-8222. 870-752-8222. You can tell them that.
All right, Albert Jones, he's our farm program director. His cell work number is 870-752-8222. You can be able to say if you don't get him at the office, if he's out in the field, like we are today, then contact him or text him on his work cell number. Let me give you another number to call. Miss Ashley Crockett. Miss Ashley Crockett's her work cell phone number is
870-589-1682.
okay. Miss Ashley Crockett's her work cell phone number is 870-589-1682. That's Miss Ashley Crockett. She's also Consultative Farm Advisor, Southwest and Central Arkansas. But we all work as a team, the organization. It's not a lot of us, but we work as a team and what we have to do. My cell work number is area code 870-589-3699. And I can do that. I'll work with you either FaceTime or, directly on the phone. Yeah, and if it's a matter where we need to set up and do a session with the farm advisor and myself and an attorney, then we will create a Zoom, send you the Zoom link and back to the lawyer, and we'll have our counseling session accordingly. That's basically how we're trying to work now, people, from an outreach perspective, again, given coronavirus. So, and if it's a matter of doing the same thing, if it's a matter of working with a farm service agency person or an NRCS person, and you need us to set up a session with them, we will contact FSA or NRCS, create the Zoom link, and we'll create and have our work session by way of computer or on your phone. If y'all use the iPhone and dealing with Zoom, we'll do it that way. Same thing on housing, on the computers. Now, if that doesn't work for you, that's why partnerships are so important. That's why partnerships are so important. If that does not work for you, then contact in Arkansas City here, contact the chief of police or the mayor, our administration here in the city. Then we will create the same type of work session. That means that we can hook up from here, the screen TV we have here, we'll be able to see you on your computer. We'll create the Zoom link and we'll have a session here with City Hall, individually, if it's on housing, if it's on air property, if it's regarding other program services and the resource agency. So when I say that network of partnerships, having the network of partnership, localizing it and connecting it back to the USDA agencies based on the programs we're trying to work through, making sure, providing assurance y'all have access to, we'll work. But we'll come back too now, don't get me wrong. We'll come back to Arkansas City as well. We can do the distancing process here, face masks, and then of course we're having the resource agencies coming in accordingly. And did this work pretty well for y'all today?
Yes.
Okay, great. If this worked good for you, we can do this. Size does not matter. The main thing is that we want to make sure we get the information out and get everybody connected.
Acknowledge our other counterpart, our other colleague.
We also have the staff people we have here with us today. Again, you met Ms. Ashley Crockett. Those of you who have not met Mr. Tucker here, he is our technical person here, enabling us to do some of the things that we're doing here today. If it's been left up to me to get it done, guess what? None of this will be happening. you can rest.
Also farm advisor.
And he's also one of our farm advisors. Where we work to put together the farm business plans, as well as the conservation plans. If you want to get a hoop house, accessing NRCS program services, conservation easements, we work with you in developing those applications as well. Now that's the application. You have to make the application to get the service. for conservation services, then the contract for whatever the type of activities will take place based on, as a plan would be developed by the NRCS technical individuals. But that's us. Look like our time is about up.
Excuse me, sir, what is your name again?
Pardon me?
Excuse me, could you give me your name again, please?
Oh, my name.
Yes, sir.
My name is Calvin King. Calvin King.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir. Again, our office number 734-3005. I want to thank the mayor, the chief of police here, administrative staff here in Arkansas City, and all of you all for participating and all of those who have been a part of this agenda. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to the next time.
Hey, excuse me, also, we have some refreshments over there, and we're gonna be here if there are some questions that individuals did not want to ask.